This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. Thanks for tuning back in. Tonight our special guest is Derek York. He's the host of the Impact Outdoors podcast, as well as the owner of Spot Stalker Fishing, which is a fishing charter down there in Galveston, Texas. All-around outdoorsman, great dude, and fun guy to talk to. So let's dive right into it. So Derek, I want to welcome you to the podcast, man. Thanks for coming on. I'm a huge fan of your podcast, Impact Outdoors, and you are just an all-around outdoorsman. You are a hunter. You're a fisherman. You own a fishing charter. You're involved with conservation. I believe you still work for the state of Texas in some shape or form or something. But before we dive into that big, wide array of outdoorsmanship that you are, I always ask our guests to begin with, how did it all get started for you? Because you don't just wake up an outdoorsman one day. Where was little Derek as a young man getting into the outdoors?
Well, Paul, a long time ago. No. Man, I mean, I've always been on a boat with a fishing pole in my hand. I mean, some of my earliest memories are probably, I'm from Oklahoma originally. It's where I grew up, from the Oklahoma City area, a town called Midwest City. But growing up, we spent a lot of time down in southeast Oklahoma at Broken Bow Lake, which if you're a big trout fisherman, you've probably heard of that area, Mount Fork River, and all the big, good trout fishing they've got down there. But, it was kind of some of my earliest memories, was fishing on the boat down there with the family and stuff. And, it just kind of morphed, man. I mean, I remember after school, I would go, there was a creek right next to our elementary school, and I'll never forget, everybody was out playing, and all I wanted to do was go catch crawfish with bacon on a string. It was so stupid, but man, I mean, you want to catch some crawfish, I could do it, and once I got older and could drive, man, that's pretty much all I did was fish in my free time and work so I could pay to go fishing. So... But, that's kind of how it started. My grandmother was really instrumental in taking me. My parents both worked and stuff. So when they were working, she would always take me out. And, I really appreciate that looking back now. I mean, that was a big influence, being able to get those experiences with her and just being out on the water. So I had my first boat, I think, when I was I got it when I was 14 or 15. So I had my own John boat that she helped me get and stuff, and still got it today. Still it's still up in Oklahoma, but yeah. So I mean, growing up, fishing was huge in my life, and really developed that love for the outdoors.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's always awesome to see people who spent their life outdoors, because you just gather this big, huge wealth of knowledge of just for a lot of people that maybe grew up in the city or grew up in not in a rural area, the outdoors seems like this big foreign world where it's they're scared of it. They're scared of bugs. They're scared of, whatever, fish, anything. Yes. And then, people like us, we have this perspective of oh, that's cool. We totally love that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm really interested in the conservation work you do. Let's touch on that first, because I love conservation. I think it's a huge part of what I am really why I even started this podcast, because right. A lot of conservation organizations are doing awesome work, but you're super involved with kids, which I talk about all the time on the podcast is one of the most important places to get started. So how'd you get involved with all this conservation work?
So, kind of going back to when I was a kid, so I was really into law enforcement. I wanted to possibly be a police officer. And now it's kind of my love of the outdoors is found out about game wardens and that kind of thing. And so I was really involved in the Police Explorer program. I don't know, I'm sure some people have heard of that, but, a lot of times your local police departments will have a Explorer program. I think it used to be an offshoot of the Boy Scouts, but it was for, kids in late junior high school, and develop that relationship with law enforcement and get experiences with them and stuff. And so it's cool doing that. So that's kind of how the game warden theme. And when I got into college, I went to Oklahoma State, go Pokes, killing it in basketball right now. I realized that, going through classes and stuff like that, I still want to do the outdoors, but I was really more interested in the science aspect and the conservation part, getting dirty, going out in the field and doing the conservation work. And one of the things I always tell all the kids that I talk to and even adults now that come up and say, how do you get your job is, find what you want to do, and to get your foot in the door, I mean, you've got to volunteer. You got to make your own way. Nobody's going to hand it to you. And so I did that. We were really lucky at Oklahoma State. We had a co-op, a Fish and Wildlife co-op unit. So basically what that was, the State Wildlife Department in Oklahoma would fund graduate students to do projects for them. And so I hooked up with some of those guys and started volunteering, going out and just feeding fish in ponds. If they were doing electrofishing work or something in certain parts of Oklahoma on some of their projects, I'd say, hey, can I tag along? And I think within about a year and a half, it turned into a part-time gig. So I got hired on as a technician for them. And, I didn't know that much besides what I learned in school, but I got to go on a lot of cool trips, and man, that ended up turning into basically a full-time deal there with them. And when I graduated, I was the lead technician there at the school. So that was a lot of experience, and all because I was volunteering. There was a lot of kids that come and volunteer and maybe do one thing and then never go back, but I was like, well, I'll keep doing it because this is what I want to do. And, so that kind of started that. And then I got hired on with the state down here in Texas, and kind of was like a 180 for me because, I got offered a position in the marine environment working in Galveston Bay down here south of Houston. And I'd fished in the ocean before in the Gulf and up in Alaska and stuff when I was a kid, but didn't know any of the fish down here. So that was kind of crazy coming into that, from a freshwater background. But man, that just, that comes quick. I mean, you handle the fish and stuff every day, and you pick that stuff up really fast, So that was kind of how I got started with the state. And then, I'm starting my 18th year with the state of Texas this year, like this month actually. And, done a lot of cool things, but probably the coolest thing is, like you were mentioning too, is dealing with the kids. And we help with a program called the Texas Brigades. And my department is it's kind of a partner with them. And so we provide staff and equipment and stuff for the camps to use. And after volunteering at the freshwater camp for about 5 years, we knew that we were, the program as a whole was kind of missing the coastal resource part. And so me and my wife, Shars, basically knew that, we were kind of put here to help start that. And so we started the Coastal Brigade in 2016. And that's been a really cool way to kind of, incorporate what we both do for work as biologists and help kind of train these kids in the art of conservation and also develop their leadership and public speaking and team building skills. That's probably the coolest aspect of that program, because you can't talk in front of people, working for the government, you're not going to succeed very well. So especially in this line of work, because we're always talking to the public. So
yeah. So as an employee of the state of Texas, what do you actually do? Because I specifically remembered today when I was getting ready for the podcast, when we first started chatting, you sent me this picture. You're like, oh, I'm just at work. And you were out on a boat, and you just sent me a picture like in the middle of the ocean. I was like, damn, this guy has got it made. Like I'm sitting on a couch right now, and he's out on a boat catching
nice
fish
day out in the Gulf of Mexico. So yeah, like my main job in working with the state is we're in charge of monitoring all the fish. So all your fish that we catch, and then your crabs, your shrimp, and oysters. Oysters are a huge deal down here in Galveston, in the ecosystem down here. So basically, we do that by going out collecting samples on a monthly basis. We use various gears. We'll utilize shrimp nets. Most people, heard of shrimp trawls. You think of Forrest Gump. So basically, I drive a shrimp boat around like Tom Hanks, I guess. But yeah, we do that. We do that in the bay, and we do that out in the Gulf of Mexico. And we do use bag seines to collect the smaller specimens along the shorelines. We use oyster dredges, which is basically a metal rake with a bag on the back end of it that we drag across the reefs to collect the oysters. And once we use all that gear, everything gets brought up on the boat and identified down to species. Measured. We usually do different length measurements for them. And sometimes throughout the year when we're doing like our gillnets and stuff, we'll collect other data for genetic analysis and stuff, or we'll collect otoliths, which, growing up, I never knew what an otolith was until I got into college, but I always remember hearing people saying they catch freshwater drum or something. They used to say that fish has got a rock in its head. Have you ever heard that? I mean, I heard a lot of people growing up in Oklahoma say that, and I never knew that, but that's what they were talking about. They got a bony structure, all fish do, in their head, in a small cavity, and it's called an otolith, and it basically grows, and you can take those little, I think they're basically like a calcium deposit that grows, and they use it as a sensory organ to sense stuff. It's all connected, ladder line, all that stuff. Anyway, it's pretty cool. But you can break those apart and polish them, look at them underneath the scope, and it's like a tree. You can see the growth rings on there, and that's how we age fish. You can use scales and stuff, but it's not near as accurate as the otolith. But in order to do that, the fish has to be dead. So, yeah.
I mean, biology work isn't always pretty.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
that's people want it to be this like beautiful, we study animals, but stuff has to die sometimes. Sorry, people. That's just how learning works.
Absolutely. And that's the way to be, the reason we do this, we do everything the same way every time we go out. There's a redundancy there for a reason. You have to collect data scientifically, it needs to remain the same over time. So you're consistent in how you collect it, and it's sound, good data. You don't go out and just, we're going to go out here because the weather's good and collect this. Like our data is all randomly generated by a computer program. It changes monthly where we go. And then within each month, we divide it up into the first half of the month, second half of the month. And like I was out today collecting bag seines, and it was cold. This time of year kind of sucks because you get a lot of low water conditions. And so like today we were fighting the tide. So we left super early. It was super cold going out so early, but low tide was at like 12:30 today. So we're trying to get all these samples in these really shallow areas done before the water was all gone. So a couple people at work have gotten stranded trying to, not really thinking about that. They go out and then get out of the boat and go up to the shoreline, then come back and the boat don't move. So
sounds like a bad day at work.
Yeah,
so
that'd be a really crappy day.
What is cold for you? Because up here right now, cold has a completely different meaning, I think, than in Galveston, Texas.
Well, I mean, it was actually for here. I mean, it was cold down on the beach. It was in the upper 30s this morning.
Oh, okay.
But usually, if it gets in the 50s here, people are complaining. I'm kind of Oklahoma gets pretty cold. I mean, when we grow up, you get down in the single digits and teens a lot. But my wife's from Missouri, so I mean, it does get a whole lot colder up there. But yeah, I mean, if it gets in 30s and 40s here, it's pretty chilly. These fish don't like that.
I recently went fishing in Florida, and I was texting you because I was like, man, this is a whole different ball game. Like, I've been out on the Great Lakes, I've been in the rivers around here, but like the ocean's completely different. The fish are different. It's just a whole different experience. And that's kind of like your game. You own a charter company now. You run that, which is so cool. That's like every outdoorsman's dream. So how did that come about? Because that's, from what I understand, that's kind of a tough gig in a way.
It's down here, especially it is because there's so many guides. It's a very hard thing to get into, and to be to be I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but to be good at, you got to be a people person, number one. That's the number one thing, because a lot of the people I get, especially initially when I first started doing it, was just like, they went out with some people and it's like, man, they were yelling at my kids or whatever. It's like, man, I ain't paying nobody to take me fishing, and then they're going to treat you like that. So, you got to be good with people. I worked in retail a lot, so I mean, I know what that's like. I know you do too. So, man, the nuts and bolts of it was there to help offset the cost of daycare initially for our kids. So daycare is not cheap. So it was one good way for us to do that, and it's something that we had talked about, my wife and I, and kind of a retirement game plan. What are we going to do after working for the state? Because I'm not going to work there forever. So that was it. I had a lot of experience taking people fishing, obviously, having my own boat and stuff, and always trying to help out. And then me and another buddy of mine worked on a private offshore boat from a company down here that would take out their clients and stuff. And we deckhanded for that boat for 6 to 8 years, something like that. And it was strictly offshore fishing, a lot of multi-day trips, overnight tuna trips, and go out fishing for red snapper and amberjack, grouper, yellowfin, blackfin tuna, swordfish, all that fun stuff. So that, that got a lot of experience, dealing with people, and not just on the, catering to the fishing side, but, you're all also having to cook for them and keep the boat clean and in shape and drive the boat. And so, that was a really great experience. And we started our charter company back in 2015. And I think the first year we ran like maybe 5 or 6 trips. I mean, it was, starting out, it's so hard to get and compete with everybody else down here. And so I was, a little disappointed, but I wasn't advertising per se. I started my Facebook page and that kind of thing. Second year, I think I did maybe 15, 20 trips. And then the third year came around, and by that time I had met a few, kind of became friends with a few of the clients, that I had, and they started booking more trips. And next thing you know, referrals are the name of the game, and repeats. And I've been really blessed to have a lot of great customers. And, now I'm running, I'm still working full time, but I'm guiding like the summertime, man. I mean, you can run a trip every day if you wanted to, especially this year with the coronavirus stuff going on. But, I'm averaging 60 to 75 trips a year, on the side. So, which is quite a bit for somebody doing it part-time, and feels like full-time. But, but I mean, it's good, man. And, I hope to do it for a long time. So I love taking people fishing, especially people that come in from out of town that just never experienced a saltwater environment per se. I mean, my whole goal with the charter is, I'm not going to sit out there. Yes, we're going to catch fish, and I love filling up the box. Everybody loves taking lots of fish home, but I mean, in my opinion, that's not the point. I mean, I want people to go out, especially bringing their families, go out and make memories and have fun and want to come back, and that's the whole goal of my business. There's days where we go out and we hammer them, and, limits going around the boat for everybody and that kind of thing. And that's awesome. Everybody loves that. But every trip, we'll try to, find something in there to make it memorable for them. And, and that's always fun. So,
yeah, I think the average, like, I don't want to say tourist, but the average person, like someone like my family went on the charter we rented in Florida with me. It's like my mom, she has no interest in fishing. My grandma, and like they just to catch any fish, they were so excited. And like for me, that was better than actually catching the fish. Like we were down there on a vacation. I was like, me being me, the first thing I did when I got down there, I was like, we have to find a charter boat. I don't care what it is. Like, I'll pay for the whole dang thing if I have to myself. Like, we're going fishing in the ocean. So, we find a boat, and that's probably what most people are doing. They're just looking for a good time. And then, my mom's not touching a fish. She was like, I have pictures of her like, ugh. But like, we caught a bunch of sheep's head. We took them in to the place they had rented. We instead of going out and paying, all this money for a dinner. We paid like $500 for dinner with a fishing boat,
Right.
but it was fun and everybody got to experience it. And then we got to like make the food that we caught, which is like a completely novel thing for most of my family. And then like we had fish tacos in a hotel in the beach, it was pretty sweet. And like, I'm sure you get a lot of that. Like you flay the fish for them, they go home and probably don't take off. But from someone who's been on charters, like it's such a great feeling because A, I don't know the water, and B, like I don't know anything about where I'm at, and it's a super good time. But for someone around who wanted to maybe start their own charter, because I know a lot of people want to be a guide or want to charter. That's like kind of their goal in the outdoors. I have friends like that. What advice would you give to someone who's like looking to get into this business? Because you're obviously doing it and you're doing a great job.
Well, you can say goodbye to sleep. I mean, that's the one funny thing that everybody always asks. And like, oh, well, how long is your day? And it's like, we're out here fishing for 6 hours or whatever, 6-7 hours. And I'm like, well, I got up at 3:00. I was up till 11 last night getting everything ready, after I got home from work and get everything ready. And, a lot of prep goes into it. So long days, a lot of the guides down here run multiple trips a day. I don't do that. It wears me out too much. And I prefer quality instead of trying to cram as many people as I can in today. And there's nothing wrong with that. I got nothing against those guys. Everybody's, out for the same, goal, trying to make some money and stuff. But, like I said, being a people person is the biggest thing. But as far as suggesting somebody wanting to start, man, I mean, first thing you want to do is, check to see what kind of licensing you need. Because that's a big thing, down here. I mean, there's a lot of guys running charters that aren't qualified. They don't have the licensing from the Coast Guard, and I don't know what it is up there on the Great Lakes area. I know that a lot of the guys up there probably have to have a Coast Guard license, I assume, on those waters.
I would assume so. I have no idea.
Most inland places, you don't. You usually have to buy a captain's license from the state. But we have to do that as well, but like my Coast Guard license, I went to a 7-day class initially, learn all the stuff for that. And then you got to take a test, pass the test. And then once you get your Coast Guard license, you have to reapply every 5 years for it. So you got to go, do a drug screen, get a physical and all that, pay for all that stuff. And you don't have to retest again unless it lapses. But so you got to do that every 5 years. And then every September, I got to re-up my state license. So, that's two big things. And then you got to think about all the costs associated with it too. You got to carry insurance, I mean, we carry liability insurance and all that stuff for towing and everything in case something happened, while we were out on the water. There's a lot of stuff like that, you got to think about. And I've been really lucky the last couple of years. I got hooked up with my friends at Blue Wave Boats from back up in Oklahoma, who make, in my opinion, the best center console for coastal fishing and freshwater. I never seen a center console boat till I started working to Oklahoma State and started seeing them around some of the lakes like Lake Texoma and stuff. These guys fishing for striped bass and stuff. And down here on the coast, that's all you see are center consoles. There's not very many bass boats running around where you sit down all day. I don't even know. It's so weird to get on a boat where you got to sit down now. So, but that's just another expense. You got to have a boat that's good and runs good and can carry enough people and stuff. And I did a good thing to do is to go out with other guides, kind of see how guides work. I've got a lot of friends that are guides down here before I even started my charter company. And, I'd go fishing with them and stuff, and just see how different people run their ship, I mean, everybody's different. Everybody has little things they do. And you can take something from each of those people and maybe morph it into something you can utilize in your business and be successful with. Client relationship is probably one of the biggest things I really try to develop, with people I take fishing and conversing with them beforehand, seeing what their goals are for the trip. I think that's really important, because I know if I go with a guide, like I've had a lot of bad experiences with guides growing up, and hey, this is what I'd like to go do. Is this possible? And they're like, nope, we're going to go do this. Or they'll say, yeah. And then you get there and they're like, no, we're going to do something totally different. And, that just drives me crazy. I'm paying all this money.
Yeah.
I don't even care if we don't catch anything. This is kind of what I like to do. But, if it's within reason, so yeah, I want to hear if somebody wants to go and just catch a shark and that's all they care about. That's what we're going to go do. We'll spend all day just to go catch a shark, and usually catch a whole bunch of them. And you get a lot of people that don't care. And honestly, those are by far, hands down, the best trips. The people with no expectations, they don't even want to keep any fish. Man, those days, you will freaking just destroy them. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I had a father and son come down. I think it was they were from Wisconsin. And I can't remember. They were down here for the dad's work or something. But anyway, they called me, and we were supposed to go out on a Friday, and the weather was like Wednesday. The weather's looking really bad. So I called them and said, hey, are you guys available to go out Thursday afternoon and fish till dark? We could just do it Thursday night. And they were cool with that. And we went out, and I literally think, we caught fish from the minute we got on the water, and we stayed out till after dark. We were catching so many fish. I didn't even want to leave. I didn't even want to go home. It was so cool watching them catch these fish. We were catching big jacks and, 40, 50 pound drum and sheep's head and trout, redfish, all this stuff. So, and I didn't have to clean anything. So I didn't care if we stayed till dark that night. So, we watched the boat the next day, but yeah, I mean, like I said, experience with other guides, seeing what they do. There's tons of people doing videos now. Just go and check out what some people are doing. I mean, that's it's kind of like volunteering. You go out and get that hands-on experience with somebody else, you're going to learn stuff pretty quickly, what you like and what you don't like. So,
yeah, that's great advice. I mean, a lot of people want everything and they want it now and they want it without having to work hard. And it's like, that's not how you're going to, everything I've ever learned through the outdoors was either through like excruciating stupidity on my part or like a ton of hard work or talking to people. And, like I 100% agree with you that is the way to go. Do you have any like favorite trips that you went on? I know as like a business and a captain and a charter owner, it might be a little difficult, but do you have any like real moments that were just like, man, this is why I do it, besides the one you just told us, obviously?
So when we were working, and me and my buddy will talk about this trip till the day we die, but the boat that we did the offshore stuff on, deckhanding for the private company, we did a fun trip one time on that boat, and it was just 5 of us. We're on this like $1 million sport fishers yacht, basically. And we had a good weather window. We were like, we're going over off Louisiana. We're going to go tuna fishing. Just slow boat, not burn any fuel because fuel is expensive at this point. Mm-hmm. Diesel was like $4 a gallon. So we went, and I remember it took forever to get there because we went like 250 miles out. And we went like 10 knots the entire way. We didn't burn hardly I think 80 gallons of diesel all the way there. So we left at 7 o'clock at night and got there at 7 o'clock the next night. And all we did was eat and watch movies the whole way out.
Sweet.
That was a lot of fun, And so I remember, we're getting close to our spot, and we pull up to the rig, and we start putting lines out, and we're trolling. And Paul, I've had a lot of good fishing trips in my life. I've been really lucky, and I ain't never experienced anything like that next 2 hours on that boat. This rig is one that people don't get to go to a lot because it's so far out. So that was, we were really excited about that opportunity. But I think we were trying to put out like 6 lines at a time, and we couldn't even get them out. I mean, it was as soon as you get something in the water, we were catching fish. I mean, we literally caught yellowfin tuna, blackfin tuna, mahi-mahi, wahoo, sailfish, blue marlin, barracuda, or drive me crazy, and just one after another. I mean, I had a blue marlin as I'm trying to put a chugger lure out with my hand, pulling the line out and get it out, a bill just comes out of the water like 10 feet behind the boat and grabs it. I've never heard anybody that happening to that close to the boat. I mean, it was freaky. And he just grabs the lure and takes off. He ended up throwing the hook, but just seeing that with your own eyes is like right there. It was crazy. So it was nuts, man. I mean, we limited out on yellowfin by like 11 o'clock that night. And we had a whole box. That was our first night, So the rest of the trip was just gravy. I mean,
that sounds amazing.
The books, man. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, you probably caught like $1,000 worth of fish that night.
Easy. Yeah. I mean, everybody wants tuna.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. You're also a huge hunter, which is super awesome, because when I was on your podcast, we talked about this a little bit, how, like I've recently in the last 4 years now, I've gotten into hunting. So, I mean, it's funny because I've noticed that, because I have a lot of people on my show. Like I have the hippies, I have the rednecks, I got the hunters, I got the fishermen. Like I just like to talk about all things outdoors. And like, I just really wish we could all agree on hunting, because it's such not only is it a primal thing, like it's also like it sounds counterintuitive to people that don't do it, but it's like a way healthier and like I don't know, you could even say morally acceptable way of getting food than going to the grocery store, which like obviously we all have to do, but like hunting is so life-changing for people who do it, even people who say they hate hunting and then try it. I've seen like so many people. I had a buddy that was literally like, I don't want to hunt. I don't want anything to do with it. And I was like, hey, he was into archery. I was like, all right, hey, you got a bow. Let's go to the range. There's a local range around here from one of the metro parks. So we go shoot at, we hang out. He's like, this is really fun. Like, dude, imagine. Okay, just like, hear me out. I have a place where we can go hunt. He's like, no. I was like, okay, imagine, just go one time. Like, just go with me one time. We'll go sit. And he saw his first deer. And he literally bugs me every weekend to go hunting now for the entirety of deer season. From a non-hunter, didn't want anything to do with it, to extremely like stoked on bow hunting. Like, and I was there. I watched him take his first shot on a doe ever. And it was like, he's like, I feel like my heart is going to explode. I was like, that is why hunting is awesome. So as a guy who's like, who loves hunting, especially turkey hunting, how did you get into hunting? Was it been a lifelong thing, or is it something more recent?
Well, I mean, I did not start early. When I was a kid, man, like I said earlier, all I wanted to do was fish. Yeah. And all my buddies hunted going to high school that were in the outdoors type stuff. And they're like, why don't you go hunting with us? Like, man, I'm working to make this money so I can go fishing. I don't care about no hunting. It's like, that was it. And I had no interest in it. My father never really hunted. I wasn't really around a lot of people that hunted when I was growing up. Fishing was the deal. And when we had my family had a bunch of land in eastern Oklahoma, and when I was in college, we started doing these trips down there. Well, all my buddies wanted to go hunting, so I would take my boat. We had a big lake on the property, and I just fished. And I was like, y'all can do whatever you want. And I'll never forget, I was in my boat on that lake one night by myself while they were out hunting, and I just remember watching two big whitetail bucks walk out in the field, and I was just like, what are these deer doing? And I didn't really pay much attention to it until then, and so I motored over there with trolling motor, just watching them, and they get out in this field and they start going at it. I mean, they were sparring, fighting each other like crazy, and this lasted for probably 20 minutes. And it was pretty brutal seeing that, firsthand. And I don't know why, but that just kind of stuck in my head. And I was just like, man, it's like, those things are pretty cool, And so when I moved to Texas, let me tell you, everybody down here's got a gun, and 99% of people hunt. So I realized when I moved to Texas that I'm gonna have to start hunting, and
I
so
think
I
it's
got
the law.
invited. Yeah, basically, it's a Texas thing, right? And so I got invited on a couple weekend hunts, and so buddy loaned me a rifle, and I got used to shooting that, and took me probably I don't know. It took 2 trips to this one place we were hunting at before I ever harvested my first deer, and I'll never forget that moment. It's just like you talk about, man, the heart racing, the adrenaline is pumping. You don't notice anything around you. And I'll tell you straight up, man, hunting, it's not about killing the animal. It's all, to me and to almost everybody I hunt with, it's all about the whole experience. It's just something about being out there in nature. I don't care if you're in a box blind or a tree stand or a saddle or what, hunting in a saddle or whatever. Hunting's hunting, as long as you're doing it legal and following the rules. And, that adrenaline, man, I mean, I shot the biggest whitetail I've ever shot this year. And
I
my
know
heart,
you rubbed it in. You sent me all
I
the
know,
pictures. I saw
I
it.
was gonna hang it behind me just so you could see it the whole time, but didn't want to be that mean. But no, I was that that was a cool deer. But it's just the feeling you get from being close to those animals out in the wild and them not knowing you're there. I mean, that's just so cool, and that's why I gravitate towards turkey hunting so much because it's very interactive with the animal, and you can get that animal to come within a couple feet of you, and that's just that blows my mind that those birds will do that. And even if I don't shoot them, even if I'm just taking pictures of them or something, and over time, I've gotten now where my biggest and favorite thing to do is take somebody new into the sport and get somebody out hunting for the first time. I just got back this weekend. My National Wild Turkey Federation chapter, every year we do an essay contest, and we have kids write essays about what the National Wild Turkey Federation does and why they want to go hunting and this and that. We have a friend of ours that runs a ranch where we'll talk about that later, but down in Junction and Texas, out in West Texas, the far west side of the hill country. And he donates for them to come out and do a whitetail hunt. And so it's late season, so we're doing does and spikes, and he's got a lot of exotics on his place and stuff. And so I've been helping with that the last several years, and wasn't even supposed to be there this year. My buddy Terrence was supposed to be there, and something come up, and he called and said he couldn't make it. So, I changed my schedule at work and made it happen. Got to go out there and meet an awesome young boy, Nick, and he had harvested one deer before with his grandfather, and but he never been anywhere else besides where they hunted at back home. And so it was a neat experience for him and me. And he got a exotic. He got a black buck antelope doe, and then he shot a big whitetail spike, and a big whitetail doe the last night we were there. And we had two girls there as well, and both of them shot their first animals for the first time. And just even being around in that environment, man, it's cool to see that, And I know you know this, but man, my daughter loves going hunting with me. And we've got a deer lease down here. We got leases because there's no public land hardly in Texas, so everything's private. So you basically have to pay a landowner for rights to hunt on the property. And so we've got a pretty sweet gig over in the hill country, lots of turkeys, pigs, and deer. And so she's been going over there with me, and it's awesome every time. So we've gotten a couple turkeys together, and I'm really hoping that she's going to get her first turkey this year. So that's my goal.
Yeah, that's a sweet goal.
Yeah. So she's a trip, man. She'll sit out there all day, and she's getting ready to turn 7. So that says a lot for her. She loves the outdoors.
Better than me.
And both the kids both my kids are pretty good fishermen too. So,
well, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Do you find that kids are a little less hesitant on hunting than maybe like an adult who's getting into it? Because like I feel like kids are a little more like all in, or I don't know. I don't have any kids, so I can't really speak on it.
I don't think they have the hesitation about what some older people do, about killing an animal stuff. It mostly for the younger kids, it's more the hesitation about if you're using a firearm or something like that, being afraid of the gun kicking and stuff like that. We faced that this weekend with one of the kids, and but she overcame that. We got her on the range, and she was putting bullets and bullet holes one after another, and did great. And after that, it's just she had a little bit of hesitation pulling the trigger on an animal initially, but she ended up getting two. So, that went away, once you do that once. And man, yeah, because I know a lot of people, that we've talked about before about people's different views on hunting and things like that. And most of it's misinformation, just like everything, it's like they don't have the whole picture. Yep. And don't think about where their food comes from, and why hunting can provide such a more valuable, beneficial, and nutritious protein for your family. There's nothing like harvesting your own meat, and being able to share that with other people and stuff. So my parents, well, my dad didn't care, but my mom, she wouldn't eat deer meat for nothing for the longest time. And now and anything I bring up there, man, she's like, bring more.
That's funny because my mom's the same way. Like, she's super squeamish about anything that's been harvested, like, by any of us. And I was actually shocked. She tried the fish that we caught on the charter boat. Like, she doesn't eat fish. And, like, she just even, like, nibbled it, and I was blown away. And, like, people have this concept of, and it's all just complete BS to me. Like, they have this concept of gamey, which, like, I think it's just a weird phrase. Like, yeah, food that you hunt and catch does taste a little different because it's not like chock full, like antibiotics and made to taste as like bland and boring as possible, like a chicken or something. But, like, my brother just went pheasant hunting like last week or something, and he gave us, he got like way too many, and he gave us some, and I just like cook that stuff up. I was like, man, this is so good. And I'll admit, when I first started, I had this kind of like, I don't know, like, this is kind of weird. But like, as soon as you get over it and just start like realizing how awesome it is, I feel like it's so, the food just tastes like fresh food. It's not like this weird gamey, whatever that word means, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, in the gaminess, in my opinion, just comes down how you prepare it, how you clean the animal, how you take care of it before it gets processed and stuff, because you can eliminate a majority of that. I mean, man, when we have to eat beef now, like if we have to buy beef for some reason, it just tastes weird. I'm so used to eating venison, and I mix all of our venison with I usually use brisket just to provide, just a little bit more flavor and some fat, because wild game is very lean. There's not a lot of fat in it, and you'll get deer and stuff in the winter, and I know y'all do up there with a lot of fat on it, but it's not the best to grind up with the meat, So most people use pork fat or beef fat to add a little bit in there to help keep some moisture in the meat when you cook it and stuff. And everything we make down here has got jalapenos in it. So I don't know if that's the same up north or not, but every time we're smoking sausage or making boudin or whatever, it's all got jalapenos in it. So,
I mean, I'm not afraid of a jalapeno, but no, we don't really do that too much up here. We do a lot of the sausage sticks, and I mean, to get it processed up here at a place too isn't like, a lot of people do that. They don't normally process it themselves as much as like take it to a place. The first deer I got, there's a place like 15 minutes up the road. You just drop it off, and there's a pile of like 50 deer, and they're like, yeah, it's freezing outside, we'll get to them. It's pretty weird. But I did process a deer one time, and it was a ton of work. I walked into the butcher shop, and I was like, hey, can I get like 15 pounds of beef fat? And they're like, yeah. And everybody out there was like buying steaks and stuff, and they looked at me like I was a psychopath. It was pretty awesome. But do you have any like real cool hunting stories? Because I mean, you're always out there doing something cool. You got any cool, memorable moments out there?
Oh man, so let's see. When I was in high school going into college, I was actually This is one of my first hunting experiences. I was an exchange student over in Germany, believe
I
it or
didn't know
not.
that.
And,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and so I speak German, and um, the host family I had when I was in high school, the father actually ran the forestry department over there in their area, and so that meant he was in charge of all the hunting and the fishing and all that stuff. And so it was like heaven, man. And me and my friend Sebastian, man, we're still best friends to today. And but I mean, I had a lot of opportunities over there going fishing and stuff. And the first time we went hunting, man, it's like, we were in north central Germany, so we're in an area called the Harz Mountains. It's about an hour south of Hanover, and it's what you think. These giant spruce forests,
Yeah.
300-foot tall trees everywhere, and we're driving up in the mountains, and we go to this blind that they had made, and the hunting over there is totally different in Europe. I mean, it is very regulated, heavily regulated, and mostly because there's so many people in small area. So it has to be. But I remember the first time we went, we sat in the blind and we were hunting this roebuck, I think. It's a very small deer over there. I just remember being way up in this blind and we're sitting there and it's cold and we're watching, and then we're not seeing anything, like a fox or something. It was pretty boring. And then all of a sudden we never heard anything, but the whole blind just starts shaking like this, and it's like moving, and we're like 20 feet up in the air, so this thing's moving, and we're just kind of like, he's like saying things in German. I don't know what they meant, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? And we like peeked out the front window, and it was my first experience with wild hogs. And they got them over there, and these were like real Russian boars over there. These things were huge. They were all like 200 pounds. And there was a whole sounder underneath us, and they were just sitting there, just scratching on the frame of the deer blind. He's like, they're gonna knock this thing over. And they ended up running off a direction we couldn't shoot at him because he was wanting to shoot one of them. And anyway, we never got him out in front of us to do that. But that was like a weird deal. But probably the one of the coolest hunts I've ever done. And coolest experiences was my buddy lives up in Omaha in Nebraska, and he told me I need to come up there and we'll do a trip over to Wyoming and go pronghorn antelope hunting. So it was kind of a year process getting your preference points and all that built up, and getting drawn for the hunt and all that, and which is not that hard up there. And so we drive up there, we get there, it's opening weekend, the first day, and we're immediately, antelope are everywhere up there, but they run like crazy, and they run all over. I mean, they'll run a mile at a time before they stop. So we were on several groups early, and it had quit raining. And I just remember there were orange dots as far as you could see on every hill. There was somebody sitting, and there's bullets just going. You just hear people shooting. You'll see a group of antelope run over here, run over there, and I literally was standing in one spot and had a whole herd of antelope just run right by me because somebody had shot at them. And I'm just like, don't move. I got my orange ons, like, just, it's kind of like the Wild West, it seemed like. And so we hadn't gotten anything. And I just remember we both kind of was looking back, and we seen a white dot laying on the side of a hill. And we both glassed it and realized it was a mature buck bedded down. And there were hunters all around, but they couldn't see him. And so he was like 2 miles away from us. And, this big boy can't run that fast, but we hightailed it over there, and we got roughly where we thought it was. And my buddy who was guiding me crawled up on the hill, and I don't know how we got this lucky, but that thing was 60 yards down in front of him, and he crawled back down to me. He's like, it is right there. And it's still laying down, facing the opposite direction. He said, just climb up there and shoot it. And, you hear about these people taking these long shots and trying to get close, even with the rifle. And after, trying to catch my breath after running that far, I got up there and I'm sitting there looking at that. I was like, I can't believe this happened. Drove all halfway across the country and look at how lucky I'm going to get, when I got that animal, I harvested it right there. And that was the coolest feeling in the world. And I was like, okay, after all that was said and done, I was like, we don't have to get that close because I had 2 doe tags. And so we got those on long shots, just to see if we could do it. And
yeah,
but that was an awesome hunt. I highly suggest doing that hunt if you can. I mean, that's Wild West, man, out there. And we were near Laramie, I think. But and the antelope where we were at, they were on grass. They weren't eating sage or anything. And so one thing everybody told me is like, those things, you might as well soak them in kerosene and light them on fire before you eat them. But they're good, man. They were great. I loved them. We ate every bit of it. So antelope get a bad rap sometimes, but it's all about what they're eating,
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard the same thing about bear. I've heard the same thing about pretty much any animal. If deer are eating like mostly I don't know, acorns or something, they say they taste bad. But I'm sure it does make a difference. But I've had antelope one time. Someone brought some like antelope sausage they made or something. I thought it was super good, man. I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's like go back. I mean, it's just how you process it and and what their diet is, So that's why sheep's head is probably one of my favorite fish to eat because all they eat are crabs and shellfish. They are basically a red snapper in the bay. I mean, most people down here call them bay snapper, and they get big.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to get you down here. Anytime down here they spawn. This is kind of getting off subject, but the springtime, man, you can come down here and catch so many sheep's head. It's not even funny. So.
Well, luckily for you, my podcast has no off topic because the whole podcast is off topic. Speaking of which, you have your own podcast, Impact Outdoors. What was the inspiration for that? I think because we both podcast, we know that you have to be like a psychopath to want to do this because it's just a lot of work and a lot of fun, but you get some big guests on your show, man. It's really awesome. And I listened to it. It's a great show. So how did that start for you?
Well, thanks. And I think we both started roughly, your podcast now, roughly about the same time. So, it just came from, I never listened to podcasts. And my wife was like, you should find something to listen to. It's a good way to pass time while you're driving so much and going places. And so I started listening to a few and really kind of got into those. And then, the last 5 or 6 years, doing all the stuff with the kids camp and all the people I've met down here through work and fishing and all that. It's cool hearing stories. And really that was my motivation. I wanted to tell stories, about people and mine's very, very story driven. There's a lot of podcasts that are in the outdoors. They're very technical, they're all about tips and techniques and stuff. And that's not what mine's about. So I really wanted to find cool people, some people you've heard of and some people you don't know, never heard of them before, and share their story. And that's kind of how it started. Like the biggest influence podcast-wise I have was probably Tom Rowland. He started his podcast probably about 3 years ago, I think. And I remember I caught like the first episode right when it came out. And he runs the Saltwater Experience TV show and produces a couple other big saltwater fishing TV shows and stuff down in Florida. And his show's really morphed into like an all-around podcast, like not just focused on fishing anymore. I mean, it's hunting, health, fitness, just people doing cool things. And like I've been really lucky to get some really cool people on the show. And I think I told you the other day I got the confirmation for a really cool guest we're going to have on. I'm still waiting to get the date back, but I'm excited for that. So we'll be announcing who that is pretty soon. So, but yeah, and I just thought it would be cool. I mean, get to go around and meet, a good way to meet people, these podcasts. I mean, everybody's doing them, but what really shocked me was how kind of quickly it's grown, to see how many people are listening. I mean, you can't really tell how many people are listening. You can see downloads and things like that, but on just all the different platforms. And I don't know how people find these things because there are millions of them, But it's cool, man. You know, you see that little map and see like a new country pop up where
Mm-hmm.
somebody listened to your show or something like that. So that's pretty cool. I'm still trying to figure out, you know, you're really good at it, you know, posting and stuff like that and putting out a lot of content, you know, and so I'm still trying to figure that game with my work schedule. But I do what I can, and yeah, we'll see how big it gets. I mean, I have no real big, like, I want 1 million subscribers or anything like that. But you know, if I can keep putting out content somebody's going to listen to, then I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I really enjoy talking to really cool people. I mean, we've met through podcasting, we've met through our love of the outdoors, and you know, I think that's super important because I've been trying to, like, the whole reason I probably say this on every freaking podcast I do, but the whole reason I started this is because, like, I didn't know that many people locally that do the outdoors in the capacity that I do or love it. And it was just kind of like, I interview a local guy. I interview a guy from a few miles away. I interview a local store. And then now I'm interviewing you in Texas and people from Utah and people from, you know, pretty soon other countries. And it's just like, it's so cool to meet all these awesome people with similar interests. And I'm very glad that the internet exists, even though some would argue that it's causing a lot of problems currently. But at the same time, it's like, it's connecting a community of people that would never meet. So it's really fun. Now, I know you got some big plans coming up, which we've been talking about. I don't know how publicly you want to talk about them, but I know you're trying to, like, get some networking going on and some big stuff coming up. So I don't know. I may have just opened a can of worms, but
No, it's all right. No, man, I'm really excited about this, and I'm expecting you to be down here. So,
dude, I'm gonna do everything in my power to get down to Texas with you. I promise. Because
yeah,
I'm very excited.
You know, I was just trying to think of a way, something I hadn't seen in this community. And I know there's like get-togethers and things like that, conferences and stuff, but I was really wanting to try to come up with some way of doing a more in-person networking event where multiple podcasters can come together and get content and then have some really cool guests come in. And I figured what better way to do that than either do like a fishing or hunting kind of juncture there. And so my buddy offered up his ranch, and we're planning on hosting our first, I don't know, I still haven't finalized the name of what this thing's going to be called. I kind of have an idea what it's going to be called, but to be released later. Yeah, we're going to do some turkey hunting and probably some pig hunting and stuff. And we've got some really cool guests lined up. So like some definitely people you'll have heard of if you're in the hunting and fishing. So really excited about that. And my buddy Robbie Kroger, who he runs he just started his podcast, but he runs a program called Blood Origins, and he's out of Mississippi. He's from South Africa originally, but he's going to be there. And check out his podcast, and I'll send you the link for one episode he just released.
Oh, I already follow them on social media.
Yeah.
I'm aware. Yeah.
But he's a really cool dude, biologist by trade, and really cool perspective. So he's gonna be one of the people there. And but yeah, man, I can't wait for that to happen. That's gonna be in late April, so I mean it'll be right around the corner. So and who knows, man? I'm hoping we can do that every year, and then hopefully start moving around the country, doing it at different spots to get different people on. And networking is key. I mean. Yeah. That's a huge deal. I mean, just meeting people and we've already got one guest coming. I don't want to give it away just in case something happens, but somebody that you will have a lot of interest in.
Yeah, I won't say anything, but I already know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't wait, and we'll see. We should, between me and you, we should be able to get a lot of good content, video, photography out of that weekend. So
well. I'll finally be useful for something if I can take some pictures or something. It'll be finally good for something. So before we sign off here, firstly, I want to say thank you. Actually, the day that we're recording this, the podcast with Chester Moore is coming out. And I want to thank you for giving me his contact info. It was a great podcast. I want to thank you for having me on your podcast, Impact Outdoors. It was a super fun time. If anybody hasn't listened to that one yet, go check it out over at Impact Outdoors on pretty much every platform that exists. And why don't you let people know real quick where they can find not only your podcast, but your charter company and any other information that they can find?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do Twitter, so don't hate me for that. But Facebook and Instagram is enough for me. So podcast, you can find it on either one at Impact Outdoors Podcast. And my charter company is called Spot Stalker Guide Service. And so you can just find us at Spot Stalker Fishing on Facebook. And I think it's at Spot Stalker Fishing TX for Texans on Instagram. And check us out. Just totally redid a brand new website that integrates my charter and my podcast all together. And it's just spotstalkerguideservice.com. Please go out there and check it out. Let us know how you like it. Yeah, man, that's easy. My contact info is on there. Send me an email. And if you want to come down and go fishing, everybody asks, when's the best time to go fishing? It's like when you're on the water.
Yeah.
All year, man. We have good fishing down here all year. I mean, yeah, there's days where the weather's just bad, but we can always find fish biting somewhere. We might have to drive a few miles up in different part of the bay. I mean, our bay's 600 plus square miles of water and heavily urbanized area. So, I mean, you got to deal with traffic getting to boat ramp, but always find something fishing. There's something all throughout the year. And, yeah, come to Texas and go fishing and hunting. So
I plan on it, man. Thank you for coming on, and I encourage everybody to go check your stuff out, and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, man.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode of the Aptitude Outdoors podcast here on YouTube. If you can't help me out and go down below, hit that subscribe button. I really want to thank Derek York for coming on. If you haven't already, check out Impact Outdoors. Derek always has great guests. They talk about real important issues with conservation, hunting, fishing, everything that has to deal with outdoors, sportsmanship, all that kind of stuff. So you're not going to want to miss that. And thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.